often ask us, well, what happens if something does go wrong? What happens if you need rescuing and picking up? Well, technically there is a support yacht, but this yacht could be 4 or 5 days away from help from us. And so we are in direct communication with them as long as as Jenny said, our electronics and things are working. But ultimately, if something was to go wrong, we just have to know those drills inside and out in the middle of the night, in the dark, in a storm, to be able to make the right decisions and the right protocol for our safety.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your host, Master Captain Angie Scott.
All right, I want you to imagine this for a second. In less than 90 days from today, you're about to set out on a record-breaking challenge with one of your best friends, who also happens to be a woman. You're the youngest female pair to ever attempt to cross the Pacific Ocean from California to Hawaii. 2,800 miles, 60 full days, and you're having to endure all kinds of challenges along the way, including weather, huge waves, using the bathroom, various wildlife you might encounter, food, water, all sorts of things. Oh, and did I mention you're doing this from a rowboat? Well, I'm excited to introduce you to my guests, Anna McLean and Jenny D'Anthony from United Row. They are about to attempt this exact same thing 90 days from today. And I can't wait for you to hear all about it from them firsthand. But also wanted to put this episode out sooner than later because they do need support as they're preparing for this remarkable mission. They are raising money for Hear Her Roar, which is a women's initiative to propel the future of women in sports, education, and leadership. As you can imagine, there's a lot of preparation. You're going to hear all about it, like I said, but there's a lot of ways that you can support these ladies as they gear up for this amazing mission. And I can't wait for you to hear all about it and for all of us to be able to follow along as they embark on this journey. So let's just jump right into it. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. Really excited about this one. We featured a lot of amazing adventurers on the show over the years, and this one just might top it off as one of the most extreme, I think, by far that we've gotten to meet. So I want to welcome our special guests, Jenny D'Anthony and Anna McLean from United Row. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having us on.
Yeah, my pleasure. So let's just kind of start introducing yourselves to the audience. I don't know which one of you wants to start first. We'll go with Jenny. And by the way, it's kind of funny. We're all in Florida right now as we're recording this episode. We had no idea. So, I mean, I'm sure they knew where each other were, but I'm in Fort Myers at the moment too. So yeah, Jenny, if you want to just give a little bit of your background, and then we'll go into Anna, and then just kind of talk about how you two met and the adventure you're about to embark on.
Of course. Well, thanks for having us on, Angie. We're excited to be here and share a little bit about what we're doing and connect with your audience. So I'm Jenny. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, and my, introduction into rowing was really at Clemson University. And that's also where Anna and I met. So we met at Clemson University. We rowed there for all 4 years, and of course, that was exciting. That was fun. We did a lot of river rowing. And then we went on to pursue our corporate careers. And I'm a biomedical engineer during the day. Very passionate about, all things human body and creating solutions for patients around the world. But outside of work, I have other passions as well, and love to lead an active and adventurous lifestyle. So Anna and I have always been, great friends since Clemson University, and have found ourselves doing all sorts of adventures. But it wasn't until 2 years ago that Anna had reached out to me with the wildest idea I could possibly think of, and that is rowing across the Pacific Ocean. So she can speak to her prior experiences as well in ocean rowing, but for me, this is something new. This is something exciting. I definitely enjoy rowing, but ocean rowing is a whole new ballgame. It is really those conditions that make it something else. You are facing 60-foot waves, 40-knot winds, and that's what makes it truly the world's toughest row. So we're really excited to be here and share a little bit more about our adventure.
Awesome. Yeah, Anna, give us a little bit on your background and how you came up with this idea.
Yeah, so Jenny covered a lot, which is great, but you might already be able to tell I have a bit of an awkward accent. So I'm originally from England, and my mum is American, my dad's English. So growing up, I've had what I call the best of both worlds. So in England, though, I live in the middle of the countryside. That's where I grew up, and we were so far away from the ocean and the beaches and anything water sport related. But in England, I did manage to watch my brother row quite a lot of the time. So I would spend my weekends on the riverside in pouring rain just watching him. And I finally had the opportunity to try it for myself. So that being said, I came to America and I rowed at Clemson with Jenny, and then asked myself, what is the furthest somebody can row? So now I'm super grateful to have rowed across the Atlantic Ocean. And that was with my brother. It took us 43 days, 15 hours, and 22 minutes. And then now we're about to conquer Jenny and I's dream of rowing across the Pacific, and a little bit closer to home this time, being in Florida. So.
Yeah, so wow, that's amazing. So many things to talk about here. So many challenges that I think a lot of people wouldn't think about. Let's talk a little bit, just to start, about this specific endeavor. Obviously you have to do a lot of planning for something like this, because it's, let's see, 2,800 miles, 60 full days. So talk a little bit about some of the things that go into what you have to think about. You can't just hop in a boat and start rowing and expect to make it across this Pacific Ocean. So talk about some of the things that you have to pre-plan for, and then maybe some things that people might not think about.
So planning is obviously essential. It's not like we're signing up for a 5K or a marathon. There's so much more that goes into it, and so much that we're learning along the way as well. Having Anna's previous experience has been invaluable. She's rowed the Atlantic and has a lot of those connections and knows, exactly what we need to do to be successful to get to the start line. But even so, it is constantly moving. We're constantly, preparing in new ways. One of the main things we're working on now is getting our boat, equipped for the crossing. So our boat, it's about 16 feet long, but it is our home. It is our life raft, and we need to make sure it is fully kitted out. It is safe, it is sound, and we know the ins and outs of that boat as best as we can to make sure we have a safe and successful crossing. So there are a lot of preparations in terms of how we are getting our boat and equipment ready. There's also our physical preparations. We need to make sure we're strong and we're fit and our bodies can handle the toll of rowing in 2-hour intervals 24/7. And then we also need to make sure we're mentally prepared. There's not too much you can do there other than, kind of just think about the challenge ahead, think about the obstacles you're going to face, and try to be as mentally prepared as possible, because there will be unexpected things that happen. We can't control the weather. We can't control the circumstances we'll face, but we can control how we react to them.
So talk a little bit more about the boat that you'll be in. And I'm just trying to imagine, because I've seen pictures of it, like you talked about 60-foot waves. Like how does that work with this type of boat?
Yeah, so our boat, as Jenny said, is really our home away from home. But when you think of a normal boat, some of them might have a galley as a kitchen, and you'll have a toilet. And a lot of the times, boats have sails and motors, but ours is literally a rowing boat on steroids. So there's no kitchen, there's no toilet. There's really actually very little shelter as well. So if you think of a traditional rowing boat, you kind of have your center position where you've got your feet and the oars and your seat. So ours is very similar to that. And then we have a bow and a stern cabin. But if you visualize this, it's honestly like laying in a bathtub with a bathtub on top of you. Like, it's so small, it's claustrophobic, it's isolating, it's horrible. And it gets super, super humid in there as well, because it has to be fully watertight. And then that means in turn that it is also airtight. So just making sure that we try and keep it ventilated a little bit here and there. But yeah, our boat is pretty simple in the sense that it doesn't have too much on it. But we have enough room to store all of our food for 60 days. And we also have a water maker on board where we're able to desalinate the water from the ocean. So as long as we've got the solar energy to be able to do that, to power our batteries, then we should be able to do that. And then we also have hatches and compartments where we can store our weather gear for when we're hitting a storm and things along those lines. So yeah, there's not too much to it. And our boat is actually called Axel Rose. So if there's any Guns N' Roses fans out there, then that's a good omen. So we always joke that it's our sweet child of mine.
Very cool. Yeah, I love Guns N' Roses. So I'm trying to imagine this boat facing a 60-foot wave. I mean, do you just ride it out at that point?
Yeah, so we want to keep the boat moving as much as we possibly can. So we'll be rowing, Jenny and I, in about 2-hour shifts. So 2 hours on the oars, 2 hours off, no matter the conditions, no matter the size of the waves, no matter the speed of those waves and the impact on our boat as well. What I found from the Atlantic is if you stopped rowing, you're actually at more risk to capsize amongst those waves. Whereas if you kind of position the boat correctly to the wave, and you can actually try and surf it, and then you actually get a top speed, you go a bit faster and you kind of ride down the wave. But there is obviously the risk of capsize throughout all of this. We just have to make sure that we are fully tied on to that boat at all times. So if Jenny and I ever find ourselves not clipped on, we'll make sure to tell each other, because instantly you could just get knocked out of the boat and washed away from a wave.
Yeah. So, what kind of like safety precautions besides being, making sure you're tied to the boat, do you have to think about? I mean, do you have like personal locator beacons, or, how do you go about that should something, horrible happen?
Yeah, so safety is our first priority out there. Anna mentioned the number one priority is always being clipped on. You can be thrown out of that boat in a second's notice, so making sure we're clipped on at all times is essential. Secondly is making sure our cabin doors are always closed, because if we do capsize and water gets in there, our boat's going to sink, right? Those boats are designed to self-right, so it is common that in crossings the boats do capsize, but as long as the cabins are fully watertight and airtight, they should come back around. And then additionally, we will have PLBs, which are attached to ourselves at all times, and then we'll have an EPIRB on board. And aside from that, just our safety equipment, we have to have the necessary certifications and trainings to do this row. So sea survival, VHF radio training, ocean rowing training. So there's a lot of preparations on, just the technical side of it as well that go into making sure we are safe out there.
And
Absolutely.
people often ask us, well, what happens if something does go wrong? What happens if you need rescuing and picking up? Well, technically, there is a support yacht, but this yacht could be 4 or 5 days away from help from us. And
Mm.
so we are in direct communication with them as long as as Jenny said, our electronics and things are working. But ultimately, if something was to go wrong, we just have to know those drills inside and out in the middle of the night, in the dark, in a storm to be able to make the right decisions and the right protocol for our safety. But for it to be considered a world record, we have to take everything on board with us. And we're
Mm.
aiming to be the fastest and the youngest female pair to ever row across the Pacific. So, yeah, we need everything on that boat, chocolate and goodies and treats, and obviously all the essentials as well.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about the food. I mean, 60 days worth of food on a 16-foot rowing boat. How do you like what types of things do you pack to make sure you're getting enough calories?
Just jars and jars of Nutella. No, I'm kidding. We'll certainly have our Nutella and peanut butter and some Oreos on board, but primarily we will be eating fruit freeze-dried food. So we're expected to burn about 10,000 calories a day, which is insane. Like if you imagine eating 10,000 calories a day, that's a lot of food. So a
Mhm.
lot of our food will be highly calorific and just keeping us fueled as much as possible, because making sure we are fueled on our crossing will largely play into our energy levels, our focus, and how well we are performing. So fueling our bodies appropriately is definitely a huge part of this row. Certainly when you're seasick as well, right? So we're likely to get seasick out there, but we need to still try to make sure we're eating enough calories to fuel our body, and being able to consume that food when we're out there is important as well. So taste testing it, we started doing that, bringing our little freeze dried food to work and popping it open at lunch and giving it a go, and then making sure we feel good a few hours later, because we really don't want to be out there and the first time we're trying our food is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean when we realize we can't actually digest that food. So making sure we bring a variety is really important as well, and we want to make sure we have everything we might want out there, but obviously weight plays a big factor as well. So making sure it is freeze dried, and then we'll really just be adding our desalinated water to it, and there we go. We got ourselves a little meal.
So in the water, you mentioned you have some sort of thing with you that desalinates the water. So explain a little bit what that is, and do you have like backups as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, so water maker is actually the heaviest piece of equipment on our boat, but it is the most essential. If we don't have that, then obviously it's going to be a little bit difficult because we'll have to manually pump water. And if you have to manually pump water, actually you're burning and sweating kind of the same amount of water that you're actually getting. So
Mm.
it's a little bit not great. But our water maker is called a Shenka Smart 30. And what this does is it pulls the water in from the ocean and then it spits it out about 7 liters an hour for us to be able to have that purified water. And it does take a lot of energy from our batteries as well.
Mm.
But if that was to break, we do need to know how to fix it. So we have the training to be able to solution it and try and fix a screw on there if it's loose, or fix a wire if it's broken or the filter needs replacing. But as you can imagine, when you're out there in the 60-foot waves, doing anything is in a tiny little space with your head down, and it just makes you feel more seasick, and it's really uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
it's very likely that we'll drop a screw and lose it, to be perfectly honest. So we want to minimize that as much as possible. So just make sure everything's good before we go. And then as a backup, if that does go wrong, then we do have, as I mentioned, our handheld pump. But then beyond this, we also have emergency rations, I think about 20 gallons in total. So not a huge amount, but enough for the crossing,
Gotcha.
just in case. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So this being a woman podcast, we obviously have a lot of female listeners, and we talk a lot about fishing and fishing tournaments and being stuck on a boat all day, and what do you do about going to the bathroom? And you mentioned there's no toilet on this boat, so as a female doing this, talk a little bit about the challenges with that and how you plan to overcome that.
So we'll bring 2 buckets. That's
Okay.
the simple answer. We have one for washing and one for using the restroom. We like to use the phrase bucket and chuck it. So it's as simple as it comes. But really, it's just, it is a really empowering expedition to take on as 2 females. Ocean rowing is certainly a male dominated sport. And, just having building the confidence to do something and like this and be self-sustaining has been really empowering. We are 2 totally ordinary people. We're not professional athletes. We don't have sailing backgrounds, and just want to showcase what you can do if you set a huge goal and you go out and chase it day in and day out, not knowing exactly the route to get there. We have a point A and we have a point B, but we don't know, step by step until we actually go through and execute day in and day out. So really just hoping to showcase to other girls and women that you can set a big goal and you can not know how to get there and you can still achieve it, because that's exactly what we're doing. And it's been a journey so far, and I'm sure there's so much more to come.
Awesome. I love that. That's what this show is all about. So much more we could cover. I mean, you're going to be encountering all kinds of ocean wildlife on your venture. I'm sure that's going to probably bring some amazing stories and whatnot. And then just all this isn't free, right? It costs money to be able to do this. And so you have to work to get support. Talk a little bit about that process and maybe some of the sponsors that have come on board so far to help you make this happen.
Yeah, so in all honesty, the rowing is the easiest part. The past 2.5 years that Jenny and I have been planning this and campaigning and rallying the troops to back us is by far the hardest part. So we actually have launched our campaign, which is called United Row. And we've named it United Row because I'm from the United Kingdom originally, Jenny's from the United States, and we want to be united with absolutely everyone who supports us. We have to raise $208,000 to get to the start line. And then we're also looking to match that amount for our chosen charity, which is to propel the future of females in sports, education, and leadership, specifically for a scholarship fund to go to Clemson University and pursue her athletic endeavors. Because if it wasn't for a scholarship, neither Jenny and I would have been able to attend either. So we just want to pay back that and give a female an opportunity for that. But at the moment, we are super close to reaching our goal of $208,000, but we still have about $22,000 left to go. And that includes all of the costs of getting to be able to do this. So the boat itself, the oars, our water maker, our food for 60 days, our transport of getting the boat out to California, and then obviously we'll be rowing it 2,800 miles to Hawaii. But there's a lot of effort that's gone into this, but honestly, we couldn't do it without the support of everybody. So we do have a few ways that people can get involved. The first is our website, which is www.unitedrow.org. And on there, you're able to donate. You can join our 250 Club. And then another way is also any corporate sponsors as well. So any goods or services, in turn, we can put your name and your logo on our boat, which is super fun, because then the scary part, when we have to jump into the middle of the ocean and scrape the barnacles off the bottom, which are creating drag and building a whole ecosystem, it means that we get to see all our sponsors' logos and names like yours, Angie, and the woman angler, etc. So it's just really cool, and it lifts our spirits a lot when we're out there missing everybody.
Awesome.
And then we also have t-shirts for sale, co-branded with Salt Life, who is one of our biggest sponsors at the moment, and they've just been fantastic all the way through this. And their gear especially is awesome for living the salt life, which we are, and I know many of your listeners are as well, with the fishing realm and things like that. So yeah, go check them out.
Very cool. Well, I'll put a link to your website in the show notes for this episode. Everybody go to unitedrow.org, see how you can support this absolutely unbelievable venture. And when do you have a target date that you're hoping to be able to make this happen?
Yeah, we launch from Monterey Bay, California this summer, so June 8th. And we will have a tracker on our boat, which will be linked up to our website and our Instagram at united.row. So appreciate all the support, appreciate you following along. Send a message while we're out there because we'll need it. So thanks everyone for listening.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to follow along, and just wish you safety and success in this voyage. And just can't wait to see what you ladies do. It's super exciting. And thank you for taking some time to be on the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Angie.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. Go to unitedrow.org and click on support us, and you can find a plethora of ways to help support. There's a lot of money that goes into this, as you can imagine. Everything from food to their travel, to equipment that they need, certifications that they're obtaining, all sorts of things. So lots of different ways to help support. They have an Amazon wish list, just for some basic things that they need to make this a successful journey. And then follow along. I cannot wait. I hope these ladies are successful. I just can't imagine. So kudos to them. I've been following them on Instagram since we did this interview, and it's been awe-inspiring to see everything they're doing to prepare for the journey. So go check them out. And let's look forward to it. And another great episode coming your way next week. 2024 season. Let's keep it going. See you guys next week.